It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
I'm very, very well. Yourself?
We're about to find out in 20 to 25 minutes' time as we do this podcast, and probably start on a major rant and see if I can survive the rest of the show. This week, standard fare, we will do Plugged Into the Mains. We're going to talk emails, kickers, and some other things. Then we're going to bask in the glory of Neil's excellent Fancy Darlings week. Talk as little as possible about his fancy loser from last week, and then look at our predictions for this week. So there we go. Are we ready, Neil?
I suspect for large portions of the next few minutes, I'm merely here to provide the pretty face.
Okay, let's start by plugging into the mains. Neil, late last week, an email was leaked from an unknown source that no one can ascertain at present, like a mystery man or woman, in relation to an email that was derogatory towards sent by John Gruden to derogatory towards Geno Smith. He highlighted that it was one email and he wasn't a racist, which was big talk because less than 48 hours later, he wasn't only just a racist, he was a homophobe, a misogynist, and a total and utter scumbag.
But not a racist.
No, he was a racist as well. I think he continued to prove his racist tendencies. It's almost like the only people he ever speaks to are, middle-aged white guys. We'll get onto that. So therefore, he resigned. That was brave of him. Mark Davis accepted it. Also brave of Mark. Very proud of both of them. Mark Davis was so brave, he even allowed Mike Mayock, who got an extra 2% on personnel decisions this week, to stand up in front of everyone and do a press conference. That was also cool. I'm going to let you briefly talk about that bit, and then I'm going to rant about Washington. So, your thoughts on the Gruden situation?
The Gruden situation is there's been an awful lot of whataboutisms,
of course,
over the last week. It's just possible that there are reprehensible human beings involved in the NFL, because I hate to bother you, but the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar business. It is not for the well-adjusted as a sport, and as a business, it's not for the well-adjusted either. It's for grasping people who probably have a different moral stance to the everyday folk. It's, as you said, a lot of them are middle-aged white dudes who've hung around all their lives with middle-aged white dudes, and a lot of them, of these middle-aged white dudes are now in positions of, say, power.
Power in the context of the NFL. I think it's probably the best way to describe it. Yeah.
The idea that John Gruden is the only person who has sent these type of emails that the NFL must know about and must have seen is laughable. It bothers me that the NFL, when they investigate things, they have complete control over what comes out. So it leads me to think there are other people, implicated in this. There are other emails have been sent. People are being protected, and if people are being protected for similar things to what John Gruden said, which I'm in no way excusing, these other people should have the white light shone on them as well to show what they are. This should not be the only casualty of this, be John Gruden. He should have Confederates, because I guarantee you there are other people who sent these same emails on official email accounts for your business. You're a moron if you do that.
Correct.
Any place of work, you do that, you're opening yourself up to this. Now, it was the wishy-washy, as I say, I don't have a racist bone in my body, and besides, some of my best friends are black. That's pretty much what the excuse was. It doesn't wash anymore. It never should have done. But for some reason, we got through so long in life that it was almost the dog ate my homework excuse in matters like this were accepted, and it's horse shit, and it always has been horse shit, and people are rightly fed up of it. But if we're going to highlight one perpetrator, we need to show everyone. So the NFL are hiding things, and they're worried because who they are hiding, they know that if it gets out, it's bigger than Gruden probably. And then they lose control, they lose all faith, and ultimately, as you've always said, it'll affect the bottom line, and that scares me.
The 650,000 emails were in the Washington football team sexual harassment, misogynistic workplace, toxic workplace investigation, and we've seen 10, maybe 20. Someone has decided to give you those 10. Just let's talk briefly about those 10. He's sending them to people. I'm assuming, and I said this on the Touchdown Review on Tuesday, that there isn't a reply all email to John Gruden after he sent said email to say, please don't send me this again because I find this offensive, by anybody who's in the copy or in the 2-line. I think we need to be clear here. I think you kind of touched on it. John Gruden is rich, okay? And rich people sometimes get protected in these situations, which is reprehensible but happens. But John Gruden is a rich person. The people who are being protected here are the people who pay rich people. They have generational wealth. And let's be frank right now, the person who we will have had the majority of these chats to has a surname that reverberates around the history of the NFL. Now that guy is a clown who was a blot on the NFL and the Washington football team, formerly Redskins at that point, for a decade. He's been proven, almost without a shadow of a doubt, to have allowed a toxic workplace to occur, and was continually allowed to keep that by his boss, the owner. That franchise is a disgrace, and today, after what should be said is a multitude of attempts to make up for the fact they've been a disgrace for 25 years by hiring certain people and doing certain things like getting rid of the name, they decided, and this is my opinion and I'm almost sure fact, decided today to make their next game the time that they were going to retire Sean Taylor's shirt. Today they brought that out while in the midst of a situation where plaintiffs are asking what were the results of that investigation that led to $10 million fine and the owner, quote unquote, not being allowed to do day-to-day duties. This fucking guy, I don't understand how Jerry Richardson now doesn't own the Carolina Panthers and Daniel Snyder still owns the Washington football team. He must, well, I do know, because his fucking white, upper class, billionaire mates like him. I haven't got a fucking clue why. All he's done is brought embarrassment to all 32 of them for the better part of 25 years. And they have attempted to do better things in the last couple of years, and today, of all days, he uses Sean Taylor, who's probably the only good thing from a playing point of view that happened for that fucking franchise for 30 years, and use his name to sweep under the carpet that his franchise was rotten. Now you can go, oh well, Sean Taylor deserves to have his jersey retired. Okay, I'm probably not going to deny that. Like, he was a wonderful player. People still play in 81. And 81 was Art Monk's number. And Art Monk played for the franchise for 20 fucking years. Won multiple Super Bowls. And is in the Hall of fucking Fame. And we decided today that we're going to use Sean Taylor. So, because, let's be honest, that meets a target demographic that you want to be on your side. I sent you and our group of friends a list of franchises and their percentage of stadium full. Yeah? Now, it was a little confusing because it went above 100%. Let's be honest. It was a mechanism, so whatever. Bottom of that was Washington. They have a shit stadium in a shit location with a shit team and an awful owner. And I am sick of this team, and I am done with this team. Like, I'm done with them until he's gone. I'm just done with them because they don't deserve anybody's attention. Washington was a storied franchise that won multiple Super Bowls and now is a laughingstock, and somehow, beyond me, still have the same owner. Like, we can laugh at Jerry all we want, and we do on a regular basis about the Dallas Cowboys. Like, he tries to fucking win. Like, I'm not even 100% sure this guy wants to win. And even if he does want to win, I don't care, because him and his mates send topless emails, fucking cheerleaders who work for his team, around to all of them to laugh at and point at, and I dread to think what else about. And he's still allowed to own a team. It's just unacceptable. So guess what? I'm done with you. I am done with you. Not like half done. Not like, I'm just saying it. Like, I'm done with this team. Like, when he is gone and he's not the owner anymore, come back to me. But until that point, I'm not interested. I'm just not. I don't need to watch them. Don't need to be involved in that situation. And it's not because they're either good or bad or whatever. They're middling to lower middling, right? So what? I don't care. Like, they're owned by an absolute despicable human being who hired despicable human beings, then tried to fix it, then had 650,000 emails seized, and somehow got his mates to say that no one would ever see what was going on, but then somehow allowed a head coach to get lobbed under a bus. Now, John Gruden should be lobbed under a bus because they're offensive things and they shouldn't happen. And if we went back through your email chains for the past 10 years, Neil, and went back through my email chains, and if we'd said something bad, then we should be fired from our particular jobs as well. That's that. I've got no problem with that. But where are all the other people? Where's the Bruce Allen stuff? Where is it? Where's the Daniel Snyder stuff? Where's all that stuff? Where's all the CC people? I'm done with this team. I don't want to talk about them anymore. I'm not interested in them anymore. They're irrelevant to me until that owner's gone.
The only thing I will say about the Sean Taylor thing, as we say, Sean Taylor was probably the best player Washington have drafted in the last 20 years. I don't think it's close. He obviously lost his life in tragic circumstances. He could still, theoretically, be playing now. And he would have been, he'd certainly be in the Hall of Fame if he had him, because he changed the safety position. I mean, you can't actually play like Sean Taylor played now. He was a missile on the field. He was violent. He was a wonderful player for the way the game was played back then. For what he brought to the team, what he means to the team, and the tragic way his life was taken, he deserves the honour of having his shirt number retired. The way it's been done, as you say, 3 days before the game, it's going to be Sean Taylor Day. The Eagles are retiring or honouring Trey Thomas and John Runyon tonight. So it'll already gone by the time you listen to this. This was announced months ago.
Yeah, you don't do this the day before. Like, because you want people to be there?
Yeah, everyone knew. So Trey could turn up, John Runyon could turn up, their families could be there, the fans could know we're probably going to get snotted, but we'll go to celebrate Trey and John.
Of course.
They knew. This is one of the most gratuitous baby-kissing experiments I've ever seen. It's despicable. Jason Wright, I'm sure you're an honourable man, Jason. But again, you were told to carry the boss's water and tweet out things like, we've been planning this for months. I'm sure you have. You plan it for months, and then you give people months' notice. It's despicable. And the team doesn't deserve it, the fans don't deserve it, Sean, his memory doesn't deserve it.
Do you know how many players?
It's the type of act that doesn't surprise me about that team.
Do you know how many players in Washington franchise history, a franchise that's been going for nigh on 100 years, do you know how many numbers they have retired?
One.
But it will be
slinging Sammy Ball
and Bobby Mitchell, so 49, so 2, and Sean Taylor will be the 3rd. Like, you don't need to, if it's such a big deal, because it's only the 3rd time you've ever done it. You haven't done it for Art Monk. You haven't done it for Sonny Jurgensen. You haven't done it for John Riggins. You haven't done it for Darryl Green, right? You haven't done it for these people. So it must be very important when you do it. And you're fucking telling me you're going to do it on 3 days' notice. That's what you're telling me, and you expect me to eat that up? Like, it's a disgrace to Sean Taylor, regardless of anything else. Like, you know, if you want to do it, that's fine. But like, if you're going to do that, much like the Runyon Thomas situation, like, that should be 3 weeks. That should be months' notice. So on NFL Countdown, on NFL Game Day, there's a 5-minute package on Sean Taylor that Sunday, because they know Sean Taylor's going into the you know, retiring his number. Like, they're telling the NFL Network and ESPN, you know, 3 days before, fuck off. Honest to God, just fuck off. We're gonna move on, because otherwise I'm just gonna go fucking mental. I want more people fired, though. In short, I want more people fired, because the people who believe that sending that kind of information is okay, firstly, then doing it via a professional work environment is just criminal. Speaking of criminal, but much funnier criminal, Neil, let's have what I would describe as our annual discussion about why kickers in America are so bad. There was double-digit missed extra points and field goals last week. Like, this isn't hard. Like, I can't stress this enough for people who listen to us from outside of the UK. We have a sport called rugby. They kick it from the fucking sideline, and they get 70% of them through. If you gave the best kickers in the UK a straight line from 35 yards, they would make 99% of them. Me and Neil would make 80% of them. Fucking Mason Crosby, who possibly could go in the Hall of Fame, looked like he was using a fucking driver, like, and he'd never played golf before. 5 kicks on the run, they just missed. Bang. No, stop it. Like, the San Diego I'm going to be Tony Kornheiser, by the way. The San Diego Chargers, who now play in Los Angeles, have a extra point success rate of 70%. No, it should be 95%. Fire all your kickers. People of the UK, listen to me, okay? I know your kid wants to play for Newcastle United Football Club now, or he will do in 10 years, right? Because they'll be, you know, minted in that, and he'll be 10. Don't let him. Get him to kick straight 35 yards over the bar. Send him to Alabama. Go to college. Then make a fortune in the NFL and become Justin Tucker. It's not that hard, and I don't want to hear about it. We miss Wes greatly, but I'm not interested in Wes's nonsense that it's harder because of fat lads running at me. No, it's not, mate. It's just kicking. It's kicking. They never get anywhere near me. I'm not talking about punting now. I'm talking about kicking. They get nowhere near me. Kick it straight.
The big problem I have is the game of football nowadays. I mean, there used to be two-way players. There used to be people who would play a bit of guard, maybe end, and they'd kick. Nowadays, it's a specialised position. However, you look at this specialised position and you look at the amount of money these kickers are paid in comparison to the other actual players on the roster. Why are coaches so desperate to call plays at the end of games to get into position that the whole game rests on the smallest, skinniest fella on your team? Stop playing to tee up your kicker for 55-yard field goal attempts to win the game. Call better plays. Be better. Your kicker is supposed to kick extra points, and only if you haven't had a penalty and you're going to go for it in two and kick off. That's all they should be there for.
This is
all they should be there for.
For people who aren't paying attention, if you were missing the field goal debacle between Cincinnati and Green Bay, Zach Taylor basically signed up so his kicker could kick a 54-yard field goal to win the game when he's like a rookie or something and he can't kick. Like, that's a criminal offence, especially when you look at an opposite situation where the San Diego Chargers, who now play in Los Angeles, went for it on 4th and 10 from their own 30-yard line against the Cleveland Browns. There's new ways to play the NFL now, and Zach Taylor, you're not playing one of them.
If your only goal in life is to tee up your kicker for game-winning situations, this is not your game anymore. It's just not. You've got quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs. You've got playmakers. If you don't have playmakers, you're not going to last long anyway. If you're not going to last long anyway, why are you kicking field goals? Just go for it on 4th down every time.
If you didn't like what you saw, just go and watch Browns Chargers on repeat and go, these are the smart kids playing a new form of chess that you've never seen before.
The only kicker I will have any sorry for is Rodrigo Blankenship. A, because he is our Lord and Saviour. B, he's the least likely looking player in the entire NFL. But also C, he knackered his hip during the game.
True.
But still said, no, I'll give it a go, coach. And Frank Reich has come out and said, I shouldn't have put him in that position. No, you shouldn't have, Frank. But at least you've owned it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Neil, that's enough ranting from us. Let's move on. Let's get fantasy wild and let's talk about Fancy Darling.
Hello, darling.
Neil, good week last week. 2-1. Back to close to 500, 7 and 8. Let's look at your 3 Fancy Darlings from last week. You picked Sam Darnold against the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's be clear. Yeah, let's be clear. That game was one of the worst offensive games I have ever seen in my entire life. On the Sam Darnold thing, only 4 quarterbacks were worse. He had 6.9 points and 3 interceptions. That's a fat loss. Neil also picked Dawson Knox. Neil was winning at life. He was tight end number 4. The tight end pool making a comeback last week because Dawson Knox was tight end 4 with 3 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown. 3 tight ends were better than that. Neil also got on the Damian Williams bandwagon the good week because we've just found out he's gone on COVID protocol. We don't know if he's been vaccinated, so we don't know how close he could be to playing. Got 16.4 points, 64 yards and a touchdown, 2 catches for 20 yards in a win for the Chicago Bears. But
not
more
great,
important,
but not terribly.
I think he was a top 20 running back.
Which ultimately
is what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
So let's go, Neil, and let's find out this week's Fancy Darlings. Who's number 1, please?
Number 1, what we want in fantasy is we want quarterbacks who are going to play in shootouts between 2 teams with good offenses and terrible defenses, and that's what we're going to go for. Now, Patrick Mahomes is probably not on the waiver wire. He's probably not going to be on many benches, but Taylor Heineke might be. Taylor Heineke has been a top 12 quarterback in 3 of the 4 games he's played. It was only last week that he failed to do so. The Kansas City Chiefs were allowing 308 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns a game. Their defense is abysmal, and it's been lit up by worst corner by pretty much everyone they've played. Now, Taylor Heineke is fun. No, he don't care. He is the perfect. We've lost Ryan Fitzpatrick. Who do we plug in? How about this version of Ryan Fitzpatrick?
How about Ryan Fitzpatrick? Let's line up Ryan Fitzpatrick with a slightly worse arm.
Yeah. Any team playing against the Chiefs, you'd think, well, yeah, they're probably going to be playing from behind. That's what we think at the start of the season. But now they could be playing from behind, and the defense is terrible. So why wouldn't you? I mean, the quarterbacks who were on bye this week, you're probably not missing them, because I'm not sure how many people were still starting Matt Ryan this stage of the season, or Jameis, or Zach Wilson, or whoever the 49ers one is. But if you are going down the road like I am in one of my leagues, I'm already streaming because I drafted Matt Ryan, then you could do worse than going with Taylor Heineke.
Panic button, Neil, on the Kansas City Chiefs. How close is it to your vicinity?
Not panicking. Last time I checked, their coach was still Andy Reid. Their quarterback was still Patrick Mahomes. They still had Kelsey and Hill. It'll take some time to settle down. They're not going to win the division, but I still think they'll get a wild card team. But okay. I'm not panicking.
Number 2, Neil.
Number 2, let's go with the same game. The same team can't stop anyone, so let's go for a position they're particularly generous to, namely tight end. And we are going with Ricky Seals-Jones. He's played more snaps and had more targets per game than Logan Thomas had while Thomas was fit. Ricky Seals-Jones has played 2 games, and he's already one of the leading tight ends in terms of red zone targets. The Chiefs have allowed, I think it's 96 receiving yards per game to tight ends this season, and they've allowed a tight end touchdown in the last 2 games, one of them, as you pointed out, to Dawson Knox. So again, if you're struggling at tight end, maybe you're a Kyle Pitts manager, he's obviously on a bye, or maybe you've been burnt by Kittle, or maybe you're sitting there and saying, Hawkinson's just not doing it for me, then why not Ricky Seals-Jones?
Neil, I've got a question for you. If Ricky Seals-Jones' name was Rick Jones or Dick Jones, do you think you would have picked him, or do you think you picked him because his name's fucking awesome? it is an awesome name, and anytime you can get a 3-letter full name, AGB, or what was it, Adrian Peterson, ADP, things like that. Anytime you can get a 3, I'm in. Neil, number 3, please.
Number 3, the Buffalo Bills don't tend to run the ball very much, because why would you? You've got Josh Allen, and you've got a plethora of pass-catching weapons. But this week they're playing the Titans, who can't stop a runny nose on the ground. They're giving up an average of almost 5 yards per carry and averaging a rushing touchdown against them every week. So I like Zach Moss as a flex option, running back 2 perhaps. He's averaging 14 touches a game and has scored 4 total touchdowns in 4 games played this season. He was a healthy scratch in week 1, of course. He's just better than Devin Singletary. They don't pass the ball to running backs an awful lot because, again, why would you? But he does seem to be the lead back when the numbers are called out the backfield. So given the matchup and given his usage, he's not a terrible play. I think, I'm definitely going to have to start him in the Scott Fish Bowl because I don't need running backs. I've got Cam Akers, and that went well. So, yeah, I have to start him. I probably would start him as well, say, over some other options. So, yeah, I think he's a darling this week.
Excellent, Neil. Let's move on and talk about a fancy loser.
We know that Tyler Lockett...
Wait there, I want to slag you off first.
Versatile.
I want to slag you off first. Stop. No. You're not getting away with that. No, Chance. No. Last week, you decided to tell the world that Nick Chubb was going to have a bad game against the San Diego Chargers, who now play in Los Angeles. Now, he did have a bad game in comparison to Kareem Hunt, because Kareem Hunt got more points than Nick Chubb. However, Nick Chubb got 24 points. He ran for 161 yards and a score in a 47-42 loss. you can talk process all you want, but you can't get a bigger loss than that. Well, you could have if you would have picked Kareem Hunt, who got 27 points.
Yeah, so he's a loser. He should have had 50 points.
Now I will allow you to talk about. Now I will allow you to talk about Tyler Lockett.
Well, Tyler Lockett, as we say, is one of the more volatile performers. He does have incredible boom weeks. He also has mystifyingly low weeks. They're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Now, on paper, that actually doesn't look as terrifying a matchup as it might have done at the start of the season. However, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had a whole week to prepare for Geno Smith. So, I just don't. I can't trust the pair of them. Give me Metcalf over Lockett this week. Lockett worries me. He might be a wide receiver 3, but there's a good chance that you drafted Lockett to be a wide receiver 1 or high-end wide receiver 2. If he vanishes when Russell Wilson is his quarterback, the idea that he's going to show up while the Geno coaster is in operation scares the living piss out of me. So I'm off Tyler Lockett this week.
That game is Sunday Night Football on NBC. NBC is one game a week. And I know that the Pittsburgh Steelers have got a massive fan base and therefore a lot of people will watch that game. But you're not telling me you couldn't flex this game for Packers Bears and it's a better game.
Or Chargers Ravens.
Yeah, you've got a rotting corpse and Geno Smith playing at quarterback against each other. And if Geno Smith struggles, they will go to Blake Bortles.
I don't even think they signed Blake. I think they just brought him in for a workout.
Oh, no, please. No, they got to have signed him. Did they not sign him?
No.
That's devastating news.
Because there's not enough tape on what Blake Bortles can bring to an offense.
But if I was picking Blake Bortles to play against one team, it'd be the Pittsburgh Steelers, who he flat out owns after destroying them in the playoffs in Pittsburgh.
He did take their soul that day.
Amazing.
They've never been the same since.
Amazing. Tyler Lockett it is, Neil. Fantastic. Let's hope he does worse / better than Nick Chubb did last week.
So 25 catches, 300 yards and 8 touchdowns for Lockett this week then.
That's what it sounds like, Neil. It sounds like it. Let's get on to our fantasy predictions of the week. Neil, last week I told everybody that a rookie quarterback would be top 5 in scoring, and I was accurate. It was Davis Mills. Unfortunately, I picked Trey Lance, who was quarterback 22 and got 13.3 points. How? I know the New England Patriots won, but is Bill taking that as another tick in his I'm dead good against rookie quarterbacks box? Because he got flambéed by Davis Mills.
I don't think he can, because, as you say, the Texans lost that game.
Yeah, I know, right? That's crazy.
The Patriots did not win it. I
don't understand it. My brain couldn't even comprehend it when it was 22-9. You said last week that the Bills would have 2 top 10 wide receivers and 1 top 5 tight end. This deserves a victory, although it's a loss. Knox won. And Manny Sanders was 15th. However, Stephon Diggs is outside the top 40. Is it good for the Buffalo Bills that they're a juggernaut and Stephon Diggs isn't playing well? Or isn't getting as many targets as last year? Sorry, I don't know if he's not playing well now. It's probably unfair. Or is it a concern, do you think?
It's great for real life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awful for fantasy. And this is the problem, that these teams need to meet us halfway. They need to realise that while we would like to enjoy their success, if it came at the expense of our own fantasy team, we'll only be bitter about it when it comes to the postseason, and those of us whose teams didn't make it are weighing up who we're going to follow. It's going to be, well, no, they screwed me. I drafted Stephon Diggs back end of the first round and got wide receiver 36 production from him. Stuff him, go Browns. That's the type of negativity these powerhouse passing offenses with their spread concepts and their no player gets more than 17% of the targets. This is the tightrope they're walking.
I'm sure they're fearful, Neil. This week, you have mentioned Ricky Seals-Jones, or as I will continue to call him now, Dick Jones, and Tyler Heineke. I mean, when we do his name wrong, it's funny, but when you call him Kurt, it's not weird. However, they are playing the Kansas City Chiefs, who are coming off a loss and a 2-3. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce combined for 50 fantasy points this week. If anyone's seen the secondary of the Washington football team in recent weeks, if anyone saw the Hail Mary that they weren't prepared for, that no one jumped for at the final play of the final quarter, the second quarter, this is money. We don't do gambling anymore on this show. There's a multitude of reasons why. But if you did, and you looked at an over-under, and you saw this game, and you didn't take the over, you're a mentalist. Neil, what's your fantasy prediction of the week?
I will say that Hail Mary was the worst defended thing I've seen or heard since Abraham Lincoln's bodyguard got bored of watching Our American Cousin and went to the tavern over the road. Yep,
it was abysmal. And I'm not even 100% sure it's the worst defensive play Washington have had this year.
No, it's just the most notable for how bad it looked.
Correct.
I've tried to be bold in the already this season regarding this player, but this week, again, I'm going bold, but also the process. And that is that Keenan Allen is going to be a top 5 fantasy wide receiver this week because the Ravens slot corners are awful. They've given up, Kenny Young has given up the 4th most receiving yards from the slot. Now, Keenan Allen is getting top tier usage in terms of targets and receptions, but his yardage is down and he's not scoring touchdowns. That ends this week. So he's going to get his targets, he's going to get his receptions, he's going to get his yards, and he's going to find the end zone. Top 5 wide receiver this week, Keenan Allen.
I hope so. I love Keenan Allen. He seems to have been, somewhat forgotten in the shuffle there as Herbert to Mike Williams has become, Young to Rice or something.
Well, this is Mike Williams' world. We're just living in it. We didn't know this.
No, we didn't. Neil, that's it for the show, really. Rants and fantasy. What a great effort. Until we're back next week, I guess the question is, where can people find you?
People find me on Twitter at ndutton13. Now, I'm assured that we have had some new listeners lately. So, hello, welcome. Thanks for popping in. Thanks for listening to our inane waffle.
How very British.
Our inane waffle. Please spread the word if you like it. Please spread the word if you don't. It doesn't bother me. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at ndutton13. This week I have my Super Bowl odds tracker for number 5, and the big news for that, of course, is there is a new favourite for the Super Bowl, and it's not the Chiefs and it's not the Buccaneers. That's a tease, you'll have to find it. My tight end report, which is going to get more important in the next few weeks because now we've hit bye week season.
Yep.
So I'm here to help you through this because, if you drafted Chris Herndon, how are you going to get through without him this week? I can help you with that.
I am at Mainzy7. As we know, I now host the touchdown.co.uk's review podcast on a Tuesday. This week we had Taibabu talking Lamar and his Lions. I made him talk about them. He wasn't very happy. I threw it upon him, but he was somewhat confident about them. Spoke to Callum Squires, brilliant. Loved chatting to Callum. Talked about Justin Herbert. Why wouldn't you? Talked about Josh Allen. Spoke to Thomas Willoughby about his guest appearance on 5 Live and the London game. And finally talked to Joe Valenzuela, who was quietly confident still in his Browns, even though they lost to the Chargers. We hope you enjoyed the show. Apologies for it being a bit ranty, a bit sweary.
Very
but
sweary.
Sometimes these things have to happen, and we're passionate about these things, and we always have been. And if you think it's bad on the show, you should see us after a few pints. That is obviously a different show. However, this show is now over. Until next week, these top guys are out. Oh, and by the way, F you, Dan Snyder.